Ross, start with China and Japan. This all comes ahead of the G7 meeting. It gets underway in the UK. Scott Morrison will be there, and I think it's a good thing that the WTO rules are in the spotlight.
Yeah, well, that's right. And in fact, Scott Morrison has always said that all of these bans on Australian goods going to China, we're talking here wine, barley, coal, for example, that they really should be adjudicated inside the World Trade Organisation. Now, he'll get his chance when he does go and is a visitor at the G7 summit of these world leaders to put his case. And he certainly assisted and aided in this by not only the United States and Joe Biden. He's going to meet him, of course, in the next few weeks, but also by Japan, again, giving assistance to Australia and saying, really, there's got to be pushback against China, against its taking over of islands and parts of the South China Sea, but also when it comes to dealing with trade with Australia. Japan, by doing this, clearly again is showing itself to be a strong ally of Australia right now. And this is key if Australia is to get itself back on track with China and in terms of trade and indeed the diplomatic relationship, which is clearly right now significantly affected.
Yeah, indeed. And look, post-Brexit, this trade deal was able to be done with Australia. So given the length of time that Brexit took to get done in the UK, this FTA with Australia has been speedy indeed, given China took 10 years as well. And it looks like it will be done in the next couple of weeks. And Dan Tehan only recently made that trip to meet with Liz Truss, didn't he?
He did, and indeed, the interesting part about this is Dan Tehan says, look, it's no done deal. We are prepared to walk away from a free trade deal. But if you sit there and think about the UK right now, again, like other countries that Australia has entered into free trade agreements with, it's farmers who really feel as though they are aggrieved. Beef farmers in particular in the UK are those that have really put up the staunchest, if you like, defence of not entering a free trade agreement with Australia. Australia would get probably the better end of that if we get the access, and that's the big if that comes. There are other little sticking points here as well, including, say, for example, visa, the ability for Australians to get visas, especially young Australians, to be able to get a couple of years in the UK without having to jump through all sorts of hoops. But there are some that are really kind of interesting here, and I had a couple of looks at some of these this morning. One of them is what I consider to be the world's best cheese, which is Colston Bassett Stilton, made in England.
Very niche,
right?
Ross.
That is very niche. I'll take it to Montgomery's cheddar in a minute. But in Australia right now, you're paying about $120 a kilo for this. If you go into Neil's Yard cheese shop, which is the best cheese shop in the world, by the way, Laura, which is just outside the Borough Market in London, you'll pay about $50 Australian a kilo for it. So, it's those types of products. So then consider, say, for example, Australia's cheesemakers, the King Island dairies, the Tassie, artisan cheesemakers. Are they affected by this? So, on both sides, there are going to be groups that are going to be potentially affected by that free trade coming. And as I say, cheese, I reckon, is just one of those little things that a lot of people haven't focused on just yet, but I have.
Well, apparently all the millennials in Australia are spending all their money on cheese. Forget their smashed avocado. It's now fancy cheese that you talk about, Ross. So very interesting indeed. Now,
so there you go. They've clearly got to know about Colston Bassett Stilton. That's what they really need to know about.
Colston Bassett Stilton sounds like a very fancy name of a lord or something.